As for Spurs, they continue to drift after a 6th defeat in 10 Premier League games, Cass, leaving them 11th. No, in fact, they're 12th now because they dropped down after that point for Brentford. They're 10 points adrift of the Champions League spots, which piles the pressure on manager Ange Postecoglou. Ahead of this game against Wolves tomorrow, when they're back in action at home, Ange went on somewhat of a defensive again about his all-out attacking tactics.
I said afterwards that, look, when you're disappointed, I just think some people aren't genuine about it. They just use it to poke me, and after a loss I'm going to react, so I understand that. So that's part of the game. I think if there's genuine questions, I'm happy to answer them, but I think some people just go, you know what, he's not going to be happy, let's just ask him whether he's got a plan B, and they think they're clever, and like I said, I'm a human being, I'm not, I don't like losing, so they get a reaction out of me, they're happy, they go home, they tell their friends about it, just see what my mate Ange Postecoglou say, and life goes on, mate. That's fine. I'm happy to cop that, but I'm always. I think you know that I'm always open to talk about my beliefs and my methodology to anyone who's got genuine questions about it.
Okay, so that's Ange Postecoglou speaking ahead of this game at home to Wolves tomorrow. It's a 3:00 kickoff. They start the day in the bottom half of the table, despite actually, Cass, having the second best attacking team, I think it is now, in the division, which is quite a surprise, really. But that's all down to the fact that defensively they have a few issues. And in fact, if you look at their injuries, it's the worst that Ange Postecoglou says he's ever experienced as a manager. And in that game against Nottingham Forest, for example, they finished the game with a makeshift back four using midfielders Yves Bissouma and Archie Gray as part of their back four. So does that perhaps give him a little bit of leeway in terms of why they are struggling at the moment?
Well, we can all use the reason, and of course it does have an impact, losing your best players. Yeah. The two centre-halves, Romero and Van der Ven, are very good centre-halves. They're both internationals. They're both blessed with ability on the ball and pace. And it does hurt Tottenham, but they are being replaced by professional footballers. Okay? The two signings that are in there, obviously, we're looking at, a Dragerson, who's, what would they pay for him? 30 million, 35 million?
Something like that, yeah.
Gray? What did they pay for Gray? Archie Gray? 30 million?
40, yeah.
40? So let's just go 70 million. So they're professional footballers, yeah? And Archie Gray's not playing his natural position, so there's another issue in itself.
Yeah.
But that's not a reason to get beat the way they got beat against Liverpool when they were 5-1 down and ends up 6-3. And,
that's true.
I find this... I've never managed, so I'm always conscious of managers speaking and like as if I know it all. I don't. I know that I have managers who have been friends who have been managers in many different levels. And I understand it's a very complex, a job that have many different problems that they face on a regular basis. I understand all of that. But when you go down the road of, they're clickbait or they tell their friends they're pulling... If you've got a coaching manual, some of the stuff you're seeing from Tottenham wouldn't be in a coaching manual. Okay? You don't go and do all your A and B badges. You talk about defensive play, attacking play. You have all many different scenarios, set pieces. Tottenham are getting ripped apart so easily that this was here the end of last season. I saw them, and I've mentioned it many times, saw them at Newcastle, saw them at Chelsea, saw them at Anfield. They got ripped apart. And they conceded a huge number of goals in them 3 games. We're seeing the same thing now. Is it scot-free for the manager then? So you just send out your team and we play the way we do? You're meant to, as a coach, adjust. You're paid a lot of money to go, well, okay, this might not work against this opposition because they pose different problems than other teams do. So you have to react as a coach.
So are you suggesting that, he is walking a tightrope here?
No. Well, okay, so lots of coaches accuse people on the outside of being lazy, not dissecting what a manager's trying to do. I think he's being lazy as a manager. And his response, that it's, you've got to have more solutions than you've shown.
But this is what I'm saying. I mean, I know it's not quite the same situation, but obviously Russell Martin was sacked as the Southampton manager because he had stubbornness to not want to change. And, if you believe some of the reports that were in the papers previously. There was talk of the board wanting him to change, needing him to change because they weren't getting the results. Now, Tottenham are in a much healthier position, in 12th position, but still, is there any kind of danger that Ange is getting closer and closer to the sack rather than...
I'll pose the question to you. Have you seen Sir Alex Ferguson change his lineups and his teams for the opposition? I'd say yes, definite.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd say Pep Guardiola's done it. I'd say that Jose Mourinho did it regularly, that he'd change his lineup and his formation to adapt to the opposition if they're really dangerous. Many teams have done this, or many managers have looked at a solution in who they're playing. I could even say Klopp has done that at times, and he played his gun-ho football, but he changed tactically at times.
Yeah, I know.
So he gets a scot-free ride and saying no.
Not at all, not at all. But I think when you're bringing midfielders in to play as a back four because of needs must, there has surely at some point we have to have a bit of sympathy for him.
Yes, but would you have as much sympathy when you concede 6 and could have been 10?
No, I agree.
Okay, and I said to you on Russell Martin straight away, they're the most obvious team to go down because they're doing the same mistakes week in, week out. And it was non-negotiable. So that was going to, in my mind, send Southampton down. And eventually lost his job.
Well, if you look at the stats in that game, Tottenham, I think, had way more possession. They had more passes. They had more shots in the game as well. But Forest did what Forest do. Brilliant defensively, and that's why they have one of the best defences in the league. And it, of course, as I say, was only an Anthony Elanga goal that was the difference. They now have a 5-point cushion between themselves and 5th place Newcastle, so we'll start the new year in the top 4 regardless of what happens in the next game, which is away to Everton. Can they sustain this Champions League push?
I don't think so, but it's been brilliant. I've loved watching the way that Forest have, because I thought pragmatic football has sort of been dying the last few years because all the laws are for the adventurous teams. You get more, obviously, free kicks, corners, penalty incidents if you're getting more bodies in the 18-yard box. Forest have shown that you can be dogged, difficult to play against. And Nuno, you sort of saw... that must have given Nuno a lot of pleasure beating Tottenham because he was gone before he started, really, at Tottenham. And we've talked about the malaise at Manchester United, and we'll talk about that, later in the show. But the malaise at Tottenham as well is one that's gone under the radar slightly. He was at Tottenham, and he'd done a brilliant job at Wolves in the way he set up his teams. He changed and adapts to the opposition, does it quite regularly, Nuno. But he likes to play a back four more often than not, but he'll change if he has to. He didn't get that chance at Tottenham. He was gone before it even got sorted. And it didn't work. Sometimes moves just don't work. Manager or players, it just doesn't work. And he goes to Forest, to one of the most difficult chairmen or owners in the league. He could be gone before you know it, Nottingham Forest. And he's found a way of putting a team together with some great signings, players that have just gelled, and it's fitted perfectly for Nuno at Nottingham Forest.
Yeah. So Forest 4th in those Champions League places after their 10th victory of this season so far. Things going well for them.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.